2,200 horsepower under the hoods of these plastic body cars. There's the staging lights. It goes from yellow to green. There's no warning. Alertness and the start is the key to success in drag racing, many will tell you. And they're off. Bernstein in the far side takes pan. Harris's car explodes. His windshield is broken. His supercharger went off. Bernstein goes on to win. A tough break for the Pennsylvanian. Let's have another look. Here he comes down the line. There's the flame. The supercharger goes way up. These cars are built for safety. Ivanov's car, the Boston Shaker, Conan's machine, the pacemaker, as they wait for the signal to fly. Up go the noses and down the track they go. It's a close race with Ivanov slightly ahead of Bonin, and Ivanov wins it at 234.98 miles an hour, but Bonin's car is not slowing down. The parachute hasn't opened, and he's headed for the fence. He's going towards Riverside. He's still moving through the snake fence and up against the outside fence. Bonin appears okay. He comes out of the car, a lucky man, and his parachute, for one reason or another, failed to open. Here it is again. Remember now, Ivanov is winning at 234.98 miles an hour. Bonin going about the same speed. The normal brakes won't stop the car going that fast. He throws it sideways. It goes through the netting and slams to a final stop. Waiting for the lights to flash. Off they go, and Foley takes a quick lead, but bobbles, and Bernstein gets sideways, swerves, hits the fence, tears the right side off his car. Foley slows way down, and Bernstein crosses the line first. What a dramatic day of drag racing we're having here, Pomona. It's unbelievable. Something happens in almost every round, and Bernstein cannot possibly make the finals with his car in that shape. Foley coasts across behind him. Let's take another look. They're saying now that Foley is the winner. All right, here they are. Foley gets off, bobbles, and then Bernstein's car swerves. He crosses the line. That's an automatic disqualification. Hits the fence, tears the fiberwork off the side of his car, opens his parachute. Here, on the right, Billy Meyer, one of the nation's top 20 car drivers, had his trouble. His car exploded. Parts went every which way. But the youngster, only 25 years old, who's been dragging 10 years, got out, fixed his car, and came back to race later. And with the two yellow lights like below that, the fuse will be lit. One end, the other, and they're off. Up, and Colson has trouble. He crosses the line, and Foley takes it down to win at 6.258 seconds. A tough break, but he'll take it any way he can get it. His speed, 238.72 miles an hour, as he heads for the welcoming crew at the end of the run. Tough break for Colson. Let's see what happened here. Apparently the car mishandled, and he crossed that center line, and that's an automatic disqualification. A long way to come.
There are some days when nothing seems to go right. Len Imbrogno, the driver of the Centurion funny car, slams into the guardrail at a qualifying run at the Gator Nationals. The car, minus the right front wheel, slides to a stop. The fiberglass still burning on the front of the vehicle. Imbrogno encased inside that smoking funny car. The NHRA safety safari crew and firefighting equipment arriving right on the scene. Crew member checking on the condition of Imbrogno. Both cars left the starting line together. Kosti Ivanov into a gigantic wheel stand. Then Imbrogno into the guardrail. The force of the impact ripping the right front wheel and axle assembly off the car. The fuel tank splitting, catching on fire. Imbrogno totally out of control. He can't steer that car, that $40,000 funny car that's now basically a piece of junk. Imbrogno coming to a sliding stop at the start of the speed trap, just 66 feet short of the finish line at Gainesville Raceway. The remains of the chassis suspended from the wrecker as it's taken from the racetrack. You see dramatic proof of the force of the impact as the right front wheel and axle assembly ripped from the car, but the roll cage in excellent condition as he faces the defending champion, Gordy Bonin. Looking at the Christmas tree from the perspective of Bonin as he sits encased in that Pontiac Trans Am Firebird. They leave the line together. And Bonin beginning out of control. He almost hits Dale Poldy. And Bonin brings the car back under control, pulls back into his lane. A tremendous driving job for the defending champion, Gordy Bonin. He is eliminated from the race by virtue of crossing the center line. But very, very close call for Gordy Bonin and Dale Paulding. Here you see Bonin out of control, crossing over, almost hitting Dale Paulding. Billy Meyer qualified in the number 6 spot. He had the lane choice over Tom Ridings, but still took the right-hand lane after watching Gordy Bonin go out of control, and Billy Meyer does it. He crosses the center line. Tom Ridings very wisely shuts the engine down in Joe Pisano's funny car. Billy Meyer, narrowly missing Tom Ridings, goes through, the loser by virtue of crossing the center line. Tom Ridings the winner. Let's take a look again at the action here as we see both cars leaving the starting line on the green, and Billy almost instantly going across the center line. Tom Ridings seeing him, lifting off the throttle, giving him plenty of room to get by.
And the weekend packed with excitement. An incredibly fortunate driver, Tim Gross, hearing the cheers of the crowd as he walks away from the wreckage of one of the worst crashes in all of motorsports. A $40,000 funny car is a pile of junk. That's what happened to Tim Gross's Datsun 280Z bodied funny car as it slammed into both guardrails at National Trail Raceway during a qualifying attempt. The crew having to lift the remains of the chassis and engine. You notice the front wheels completely gone from the car. Tim Gross looking on, very fortunate to be able to even watch what's going on at this moment. Let's watch as Tim Gross, in slow motion, you see it here, losing control of the car, slams first into the guardrail. On the left side of the racetrack, the car almost turning over at that point, coming back down onto what remains of 4 wheels, heads directly across track and slams into the guardrail on the right-hand side. The body separates from the car, and now the slow, agonizing tumble with the driver inside the roll cage, down the guardrail again and again. Fire breaks out when the fuel tank explodes. Tim Gross, encased inside the car, is conscious. You can see him moving around. He starts reaching for the seatbelt release as crew members from the staging lanes begin their pursuit of this tumbling funny car, trying to offer some assistance. But is Tim Gross doing it himself as he reaches for the seatbelt release, gets the belts loose, gets his legs first out of the car. He then rolls out, hits the ground, and starts running. John Collins in the right lane. And a wheel stand start by Beetle. He's all over the race course, but he gets it straightened out, and he's on fire. An engine explosion, the fire coming out underneath the car, the parachute whipping through the breeze. Beetle trying to bring the car to a stop. Steve, you're down there. What's going on?
At this time, Dave, Raymond Beetle sliding to a stop down here. The emergency crews rushing from both ends of the racetrack. He actually stopped in rather an awkward part of the racetrack and not normally where the fire equipment is needed, but they're on him now.
Ray Beetle encased in his fire suit, A-OK. So we watch it again. You see him leave the starting line. The wheels are in the air. It begins to drift out towards the guardrail. Raymond drops the front wheels back on the pavement. Meanwhile, John Collins trying his best to pull ahead of the world champion. As Raymond making the charge for the finish line, the engine explodes. Some piston smoke out of John Collins' car, but the fire is the important thing in the Blue Max. You see the parachute, part of the shroud lines burned away, and there is where Ray Beetle hits the onboard fire extinguishers and knocks the fire down. In the semifinals, Beetle backing up, and Billy Meyer can't back up. He's got problems. If he comes across that center line, and he did, he is out of competition. He's driving the car back up to the starting line. And this is a sight you very rarely see on any drag strip. 2 cars coming at each other head on. The Blue Max against Billy Meyer. Meyer coming around him and passing him, heading back behind the starting line area. As Beetle's crew concentrating on their car, they know what happens when you cross the center line, you go out of racing.
Running opposite Paul Smith, Tom Motry qualified in the number 8 slot. But a parachute failure places him upside down in the safety sand trap at the end of the track. His 6.32 second run proved useless, as he was unable to make the 8 o'clock elimination call. Fortunately, Motry was unhurt in the incident.
Raymond Beetle into the wheel stand. The tire smoke. He heads to the guardrail, and here goes Roy Harris on the upset of the race. Raymond Beetle in qualifying had 2 5-second elapsed times, but when it came to and Roy Harris, his parachute did not open. He's got the car slowed. He misses the catch net, going slow enough that he can take a right turn and come to a safe stop. But for Raymond Beetle, one of the biggest disappointments of his career, he has absolutely intimidated funny car racing during qualifying, but when it came to eliminations, a little bit too much power, a little bit too much clutch, and the upset win goes to Roy Harris.
Ridings is ready. Prudhomme inches in. He's ready. We can have a start any time. There it is. Don Prudhomme and Tom Ridings, and Ridings suddenly with a fire underneath his car. Tom Ridings hits the onboard fire extinguisher system and knocks the fire out. As we said earlier, that's the biggest peril in funny car racing, fire. That's why they're forced to carry onboard fire extinguisher systems. As soon as Ridings felt his seat getting hot, he hit a button with his gloved hand, activated the system, and now he comes out of the escape hatch. And I think he's got a warm seat in that 5-layer fire suit. The NHRA Safety Safari team on hand instantly, as they always are. They'll get the body up, make sure the fire is completely out. Now, Don Prudhomme runs a very nice 6.08, displaying some good consistency at 238 miles an hour. Here we see it again. Everything appears to be fine for Ridings. He is wheel to wheel with Don Prudhomme. Suddenly he drops back. And here you see the fire. Apparently connecting rod punching a hole in the oil pan on the side of the block, and that's oil burning behind the car. Generally, you see these kind of fires in the finish line area where they're even more dangerous. Seldom do you see one this close to the starting line. Tom Ridings is A-OK. He got on the bottles quickly, as a good driver will.
When its opponent broke, Dale Armstrong. There'll be no gift here. Colson in the near lane, Harris in the far lane. Harris crosses the center line. That disqualifies him, and Colson will go on to win in the semifinal round of Funny Car.
And only some clutch driving by this man prevented a severe accident.
Let's look at it one more time. As they come off the line, Colson straight and smooth, and then Harris darts across that center line. It's an immediate disqualification, and Colson won the race at that moment. He's up and on the line on the near side. Raymond Beetle on the far side. They're staged. Colson's in the lights, the yellow light, and they're off and running, and Beetle loses it right away. Tremendous driving job as he recovers it, but Ron Colson goes on to win.
And Colson wins it with the best elapsed time we've seen in the near lane, 6.28 seconds, 230 miles an hour. And there goes Raymond Beetle. He can't believe it happened to him.
A good piece of driving by Raymond Beetle. As we look at it one more time, Beetle loses it right off the line, catches it, points it back straight. But already it's too late.